Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here for the Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today, it is November 22nd, 2021, and today's show is brought to you by Sonos. Holiday season coming up, and there is no better gift to get somebody right now than a Sonos speaker sound system. I've got one in my house. It's excellent. Whether it's watching games or playing video games, it's the best sound system that's out there right now. All right, 5 games to get to from the Big 12 slate this weekend. We'll get to all of them next.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, let's get into it here. 5 games from the weekend that we are going to get to. Quick note before we do this week, obviously it's Thanksgiving Day week, so I hope everybody has a great week. Now, the Big 12 slate is going to be spread out through the weekend with both football and basketball. And I'm really hoping to get into some hoops this week because it is feast week, and obviously it's a pretty big week, when it comes to college hoops. So hopefully we'll get to some of that as well as we get through the week. But kind of give you guys a sense of what the schedule is going to look like. We've got 2 games on Friday, K-State, Texas, and TCU, Iowa State. Then Saturday, the remaining 3, Texas Tech, Baylor, West Virginia, Kansas, and then Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So we'll kind of do we will preview them all together, had the preview out on Thursday. We'll also have a bonus episode this week. If you guys know me, I do also do a Locked On Nationals as well. And so with that, we're doing, the NL East guys are doing a Thanksgiving Day draft of foods. So I will share that video here as well on the channel. Also share the episode, the audio version. I'm going to share that on, excuse me, I'll share the audio of that too on the podcast feed. So Thanksgiving Day draft, even though it's with the baseball guys, I feel like who doesn't like a nice draft of Thanksgiving Day foods? So that'll be up here as well. All right, so I was trying to figure out what to start with this week because there's some big results, but let's start with Oklahoma State and Texas Tech because that was not the closest game. It was not the most exciting game, but it was the most important game. Oklahoma State came in ranked number 9 in the country, and they shut out Texas Tech on the road. I believe on the broadcast, it was brought up that this is the first time Texas Tech has been shut out. Dave Hunziker brought this up. First time Texas Tech has been shut out at home since the 90s. First time they've been shut out, I believe, too, since like the early 2000s, somewhere around in that range. And I know it's with an interim head coach. I know it's with a third-string quarterback. But this also is a Texas Tech offense that put up 41 points the previous week on Iowa State. And so for Oklahoma State to go into a potential trap game scenario, for them to go on the road with everything to play for, right? The Big 12 championship, a spot potentially in the college football playoff. This felt like a spot that maybe old teams in the past would get to, and this is where they would falter. This is where the defense comes in because the offense did not really get things going. They were, this is what the guys at the Solid Verbal call a crock-potting. That's like the term that they use. It's like a slow burn. But this was a game that never felt like Texas Tech was within reach of, even when it was like 6-0, because they could not move the football. I think it was the fourth quarter when Texas Tech eventually made its way to 100 yards of total offense in the entire game and still got shut out across the board. I mean, Oklahoma State's defense was relentless, absolutely relentless. 5 sacks, 8 pass deflections. Offense had no turnovers, and they controlled the time of possession. This was the 2021 Oklahoma State kind of masterpiece. This is them saying, hey, we're not, it was just a microcosm like their entire season. Like they were not excellent on offense, but they controlled the game. They ran the football. With both Desmond Jackson and with Jalen Warren, they were able to control it. They were able to get the ball to Tay Martin just a little bit, on the outside and try to get some of the other wide receivers obviously involved as well. And Spencer Sanders took care of the football in this game too. They, from pillar to post, won it. And Mike Gundy, I think I talked about Dave Aranda being a coach that was willing to evolve. Um, Dave Aranda has done what a lot of coaches sometimes refuse to do, and that is adjust your game plan to your personnel. And some coaches do that, but like it's a lot of coaches, it takes them way too much time, and they kind of begrudgingly do it. This is a team that from the outset decided, after those first couple games, was like, all right, our identity is going to be running the football and playing defense. And those two things have come to bear throughout the season. And you look at the games that they've had, I believe the streak it's like 15 straight quarters. Dave Hunziker said, with the first team defense for Oklahoma State has not allowed an offensive touchdown. And you look at the last four games, ever since that 24-21 loss, and giving up 24 points is not that bad. But they gave up 3 to Kansas, which we know has been scoring a little bit lately. They gave up 3 West Virginia. Not a great offense, but still, you're making them look like a bad offense. That first drive was all they had going. TCU, 17 points in a game where they got smoked. And the first team defense, I think, is kind of really where they came off the field and allowed TCU to score. And then a shutout on the road against Texas Tech. And Donovan Smith, who looked really good the previous week. They fly to the football. They're impactful. They play good defense. They tackle well. That is something that we don't always see in defenses across the board as much anymore. From Rodriguez to Harper to Harvell Peel, to Jarek Bernard Converse, to all of these guys, like they're all tackling, Brock Martin, Lacey, Christian Holmes, the Missouri transfer on the outside, obviously Colin Oliver, who people think is going to be a stud down the line. All of these dudes tackle. They all get after the football. They all finish there. And so for Mike Gundy and Jim Knowles to change their identity to this, from the high-flying shootout, they used to be the idea of the Big 12, right? My kind of ideas of the Big 12 is watching a game between, an old school Bedlam game where it's 45-38. That's kind of my idea of what the Big 12 is. I think it's the idea of a lot of I think it's a lot of national people still idea of what the Big 12 is. The Big 12 has changed, and Oklahoma State changed with it. They changed it fast, and they got themselves a year after abject disappointment, absolute sadness for them in a season they thought was going to be theirs, and still performed pretty admirably that year, but not reaching expectations. They came out this season and changed it up. And as far as the college football playoff goes, they are still alive and well. Do I think they beat Oklahoma twice? No. Is it a real possibility they could? Some of you out there say, look at the series history. I understand that. This is different. This is because the way Oklahoma State plays, you figure that kind of defense is going to keep you in both games. Now, do I think their offense can win them both those games? No, probably not. And Oklahoma's defense is playing a lot better. And we'll get into that more as the week ahead. It goes ahead. But if you take it one game at a time, you think about beating Oklahoma one week, okay, reset. Can we do it the next week? And here's the thing. They actually don't have to beat Oklahoma twice. If they beat Oklahoma once and Baylor wins next week, Baylor gets the rematch. So Oklahoma State might not have to actually beat Oklahoma twice. Might have to beat Baylor twice, which, the king of learning from your mistakes is Dave Aranda, but they might have a backup quarterback. We'll have to see how things shape up, and no pun intended with Blake Shapen, but we'll have to see how things shape up. But as far as the college football playoff goes, Oklahoma State is still very much alive. You look at what happened over the course of the weekend. Wake Forest was behind them. They end up falling out, right? So you lose Wake Forest in the top 10. I'm trying to find, there it is, the CFP rankings, so we can fire those up right now. So over the course of the weekend, Oregon at number 3 got pummeled by Utah. See ya, you're out. Michigan State got pummeled by Ohio State. See ya, you're out. Those two teams fall behind, so you think that puts Oklahoma State now at 7. Notre Dame is somebody that I think Oklahoma State can jump if they win out. So I think a 12-1 Oklahoma State is going to jump an 11-1 Notre Dame thanks to that conference championship. And also, it's not like Notre Dame's schedule is awesome, although I will give them credit. They are beating the hell out of the teams that are ahead of them that they can play. So I'm not really going to take too much away from them, but I do think in a situation where it says Oklahoma State or Notre Dame, I'm going to jump Oklahoma State because they're 12-1 and they'd be a conference champion. Then you've got Michigan and Ohio State. That's going to take care of itself. So that's going to put Oklahoma State up there at number 5 if they keep winning. And then you've got Georgia, Alabama, which is going to also take care of itself. So you really hope that Georgia wins, because if Georgia wins, that would mean that you have Georgia, uh, uh, Ohio State / Michigan, Cincinnati, and then Oklahoma State. And would they flip flop and do the thing where they say Notre Dame's in over Cincinnati? I don't know, but if this thing plays out the way we think it probably will, which means Georgia beats Bama, Ohio State beats Michigan, then if Oklahoma State runs the table, they're in prime position to be that 4 seed. And it would be a different kind of year because we'd have Georgia and Ohio State. But there is a possibility out there right now that your Big 12, your college football playoff is Georgia, Ohio State, Cincinnati, and Oklahoma State. That is there. That is on the table. If Alabama's got 2 losses and Michigan takes a second loss and Notre Dame is at 11-1, I think Ohio State gets in. I definitely, as a champion, 13 though Georgia's going to be in. I think a 13 though Cincinnati is in, because you cannot compare them and say head to head that you can't take a perfect team in Cincinnati, compare head to head with Notre Dame, and then put Notre Dame in the playoff. You cannot do that. They might. They might. I might be totally wrong. I might be off my rocker here, but I don't think they can do that. So Oklahoma State, in terms of the college football playoff picture, they have put themselves in position to get 2 excellent wins. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of hard work. But if they can earn 12-1 this year, it's going to be hard to keep them out. But if an Alabama win is going to make things a lot more complicated for them, because then you might be splitting hairs between 12-1 Oklahoma State and a 13-0 Cincinnati. And as somebody who is a Big 12 fan, I would hate that, because both those teams are going to be great representatives of our conference moving forward. So I would not want to come down to that. Let's not think about that until we get to that moment. But we're cheering for Georgia is what we're doing if you're the Big 12 conference. And sure, people might say, oh, you're the can for Oklahoma State. Yeah, because I was on them early on in the season. And here is why. Mike Gundy made these changes that we talked about. And this happens all the time in sports. The Capitals did it. The Washington Nationals did it. The Atlanta Braves did it this year. It's those times where you don't think it's going to happen, right? Where it seems like the window might have closed and the best shot might have gone by, and you lose your best player in Bryce Harper, or you lose your best players in Ronald Acuna Jr. and your best pitcher in Mike Soroka, but you still find a way to persevere. In this case, you lose a guy like Tylan Wallace. You lose Chuba Hubbard. The offensive line's not great, right? Lose a guy or 2 on defense as well, like Oklahoma State has. But still, they have persevered. You lose Tevin Jenkins up front as well. They still persevered. They still adjusted, and they still put themselves in a position now to do that. I know they have it in the past, and we'll see what happens this weekend. But Oklahoma State, we have to mention this, in terms of college football playoff, they're knocking right there on the door. All right, let's get to the rest of the games in the weekend. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to play daily fantasy in college, for college sports. What you guys can do is you all can go download Prize Picks now. It's available in most states. You use the promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON, Locked On, and you'll receive a 50% deposit bonus, or excuse me, 100% deposit match up to $100 right now at Prize Picks. So go check that out. All right, Oklahoma 28. Iowa State 21. So in terms of college football playoff, Oklahoma is alive and well. If they win next week, they'd have to score 2 wins against Oklahoma State. I'm sure a lot of Oklahoma fans feel like that is possible because of their recent history against Oklahoma State. So keep that in mind. But this was a game. I thought Chris Plank put it pretty perfectly. This was Oklahoma's defensive best game. This was maybe one of their worst games on offense, save the Kansas game. I know they put it on late in that game, but really, it took a couple of Caleb Williams' remarkable plays to get things going. And that's not really offensive quality. That is more individual quality. That's not really kind of a collective type deal. That kind of played out in this game too, right? Caleb Williams' touchdown run from 74 yards was a special piece of playmaking. Gabe Eichard put this on Twitter, does Oklahoma radio, work with him at SiriusXM. He said on Twitter, I don't think watching that playback that was a designed play. I don't think that was the way things were supposed to play out. for Oklahoma and their offense. I love the way on defense that Oklahoma got after Brock Purdy. And I did not like to see him get hurt, obviously. Hunter Deckers came in and made a decent accounting of himself. They got after Brock Purdy. They made life miserable. They hit him. They made him pay for getting out of the pocket. Guys were shooting through him. I thought Brock was doing the best he could to evade traffic, but there were some situations like that fumble, that Oklahoma's defense just kept putting themselves in great positions. Jalen Redmond's run was a thing of beauty. He was on his horse. He looked fast. Like he said after the game, he said he came out of the tunnel and he was still tired after halftime. But what an effort right there. And I will say this about this game. The biggest moments went Oklahoma's way, right? The interceptions, the fumble, the Caleb Williams thing. The one thing that didn't go their way was that fumble out of the back of the end zone that I was surprised they gave Iowa State the football on the 1 yard line in that situation. To me, that looked like that ball was out of the back of the end zone when he caught it and then, kind of went down and the ball went out of bounds. I was shocked to give it on the 1 yard line. It helped keep Breece Hall's touchdown streak alive. Other than that, I feel like he had a pretty quiet day. Breece Hall did. But yeah, I mean, I think Oklahoma's concern moving forward is some of their best moments on offense against a really good defense, or sometimes really good defense in Iowa State. Their best moments came from some improvisation, right? There was some freelancing that was involved. I mean, they got two of their scores, really off of, off that the play they knocked the ball away. So there was one touchdown and the fumble return, and then the Caleb Williams broken play took 74 yards for a touchdown. That's fine. Does that work against an Oklahoma State type defense? Doesn't work against Baylor either, right? We already saw that, firsthand. So defenses of that quality, will that stuff work? Caleb Williams' interception was really bad too. Him as a passer, he was not very good in this game. The numbers bear that out as well. But him as a passer really has not been too impressive over the last couple of weeks. And defense to throw new things at him. Part of it's on the wide receivers as well. I understand that. But Oklahoma's offense, this is not the OU offense that we're used to seeing. They've got the talent all over the place. But this thing collectively, whether it's offensive line play, whether it's communication, whether it's just Caleb Williams being new, this thing is not completely meshed yet. That being said, to get this kind of a win, this kind of a spot where you must win the game, you must do it to bounce back from a bad loss, to get a 7-point win on the road. They're up 14 late. They should close that thing out. Iowa State went right down the field late on them, got that first touchdown, easily stopped Oklahoma again, got the ball back and almost scored again, but a great defensive play from Oklahoma helps them seal the deal. This is a win, right? This is a win that you'll take. There are some positives, but I think there are a lot of concerns about offense. And this is where Lincoln Riley is going to make his money. He's going to show you how much he's worth this week. What does the adjustment look like when you head into Bedlam? What does that look like for Oklahoma against Oklahoma State next week? We'll have to see. For Iowa State, I know the disappointment continues. I know it does. And this is not the season they've wanted. And these kinds of games, it feels like they've lost basically every single one of these games this year that have been close. Save the game against Oklahoma State, which they did win. But man, I mean, this is just not the season. The offense is not the offense we thought it would be. A lot of shuffling up front, not able to get the running game going. And it felt like the tight ends, Allen and Kolar, were the most effective guys they had in the field, right? It just feels like you got to find those guys as much as possible. And things are difficult for Iowa State. We talked a lot about them last week, but difficulty, yeah, it hurts a little bit to see this team playing at this level. All right, this game made me upset. Baylor 20, Kansas State 10. I had a good week last week. It was 4-1 against the spread. I also said the lock of the week was the under 50 in this game, Baylor and Kansas State. This one felt like it was pretty easy. Both these teams were bottom 15 in the country in terms of pace, plays run per game. Baylor was at 116, I believe. Kansas State was dead last at 130 in terms of plays run per game. So both quarterbacks get hurt here, which was crappy to see. Skylar Thompson's last game at home, we didn't like seeing that. And then obviously Gary Bohannon, he gets the hamstring and Blake Shapen comes in. Does not do a bad job. We're going to have to see, though, what the status is moving forward, because that Texas Tech game, no, it's at home, but it's a whole lot different if Blake Shapen's playing quarterback than Gary Bohannon. We'll see if Shapen can get him ready to go, but you're concerned because that hamstring for Bohannon, you think it's going to take a little bit more time than normal. Baylor went up early. They went up early and they just kept the lead. Like they took advantage of a muff fumble and they had another nice drive. And this game wasn't the cleanest, but Baylor did a good job of executing early on, and really everything kind of held serve the rest of the way. Like I know there was a surge later on in the game, but this, things just kind of went their way the rest of the way, and there was not enough in the tank. I think once again, this is like another appreciate Dave Aranda moment, because this is a team that is now going to get three cracks, potentially three cracks, at least two cracks. We know this, at winning a 10th game. Right now, they are what? They're 9-2 on the year, correct? So they're going to have multiple shots to win a 10th game. Nobody saw that coming. Absolutely nobody saw it coming. They're going to get a chance this week against Texas Tech. They'll get a chance in their bowl game. They'll potentially get a chance in the Big 12 championship game, depending on how things play out in Bedlam. But for Oklahoma State, for Baylor to be in this position of win 10 games, like, credit the job all of those guys have done on that Baylor staff. And as more jobs open, right, the Florida job has now become open. They think about all these, possible jobs. USC is open, and Florida is open, and LSU is open, Virginia Tech is open, TCU is open, and potentially Cincinnati could open, and then potentially Iowa State could open, and potentially Penn State could open. All of these jobs are available, and Baylor's going to have to make a determination on how, put a price on stability, put a price on a year-to-year guy that probably the new Big 12 conference and Dave Aranda, I feel like all of us would trust, to potentially put Baylor in position to win the conference for years to come, right? I think that's what we have to. That's what Baylor kind of has to value Dave Aranda as at this moment, at this point in time. So I think that's the way they have to look at it, right? They have to say, what do we value the stability that Dave Aranda brings us at this moment in time, and potentially in the future, because he has done such a good job. They're 9-2, man. 9-2 Baylor Bears, the chance to potentially go to the Big 12 championship game this year. That felt like a pipe dream coming in, and it's a reality. Even with now a backup quarterback, it's still a reality. So for Kansas State, they've had an awesome year for them, right? At their 7-4 mark right now against Texas, and have a chance to go on the road against a team that looks like they've quit and go get win number 8. This is still a really good year for them, and they've got some things to work out. But Baylor's almost kind of a better version of Kansas State in terms of taking care of the ball. Now, Deuce Vaughn did hit a big play, but that felt like the extent of their entire offense, right? Deuce's awesome explosive touchdown run. But besides that, they really did struggle to move the football, it felt like, for most of the game. All right, 2 more games to get to, but still, I want to give credit to Kansas State. 2 more games to get to here, but one more word from our sponsors first. Today's show was brought to you by Built.com. Go check out their collection of Built bars today. Holiday season, y'all. And look, here's the thing. Pieces of pie have like 300 calories in them at least. Built Bar has got 130 to 180 calories. It's got protein. It's got low sugar, low carb as well. It's a treat you can enjoy during holiday season and still like go for a run afterwards. So go to Built.com today. It's Built.com. Check out all the flavors available right now. They've got coconut, raspberry, mint brownie, coconut almond, salted caramel, double chocolate, cherry bar chia. All of those available right now at Built.com. It's Built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15, LOCKED 15 LOCK15. You'll get 15% off today at Built.com. All right, remaining games in the Big 12 to get to. It was West Virginia 31, Texas 23. So this West Virginia team is not very good, in my opinion. I don't think they're that good. They are 1 win away, though, from bowl eligibility, and they deserve a lot of credit for being tough, hanging in there, and getting close. And they play Kansas next week, so they'll be favored in the game when they could reach bowl eligibility. Jared Dagey, I'm not a huge fan of him. I don't think he'll be quarterback next year. He had 2 really awesome touchdown tosses in this game. The third one he almost missed, threw it way too high, but the receiver was able to make an adjustment and find it. And here's the big story of this game, in my opinion. West Virginia was converting 25% of the time on third down in the previous 4 contests before Saturday. All right, 25% conversion rate on third down. They converted 12 of 20, third downs against Texas defense. Texas could not get off the field on third down. And here's the big problem with the Longhorns this year. Now, I've already given West Virginia their flowers. Letty Brown was awesome. Jared Dagey, 290, 3 scores, no INTs on the day. Letty Brown, 33 for 158 and a score, so he was a horse in this game. But the problem for Texas, in my opinion, is it's a twofold thing. They don't know who their quarterback is, which has caused their offense to be inconsistent, which has made them, in turn, need their defense to step up in a lot of places. And their defense just has not been good enough to step up and hold teams off and allow their offense to figure things out, right? Oklahoma State has the luxury of having a defense that allows their offense to figure things out. Sometimes Oklahoma, at least recently, it feels like, has had that luxury for their defense to step up and help their offense eventually figure things out. Same thing goes for the Baylor Bears. That was not the case. That's not been the case for Texas on this losing streak, right now. And I know people want Sark gone, but you have to understand this, all right? They had I think it was a 17th ranked recruiting class according to 24/7 last year. They're at 7th right now. If you lose Steve Sarkisian, you risk blowing up that class. So he has got a chance to get his guys in there. He's got a chance to get players in there he wants. He needs to build the defense. He needs to find a quarterback. He's got to build the offensive line because guess what? Talented guys look really good in Steve Sarkisian's offense. Xavier Worthy, if I was Josh Neighbors, a kid who is of Xavier Worthy's talent in high school, and I'm watching him play right now, I'm saying, wow, I want to go to Texas because they've got even with no consistent quarterback, they're still finding ways to get guys like me the football and space and positions to make plays, and I'll look good doing it. I'll get my touches. I'll get my moments. Bijan Robinsons of the world. And there's not many of them, but talented running backs, they'll have a chance. And also, I think he can get a quarterback to come play for him. We saw what he did with a guy of Mac Jones' stature. I know Mac Jones is doing well in the NFL right now, but there are guys out there that Steve Sarkisian can get that would really help this offense. Maybe he hits transfer portal. Maybe it comes in the form of a freshman, but I'll tell you this, Carter Thompson, I do not see being the guys next year playing for Texas at quarterback because those two guys have both had their chances, and because of their inconsistencies, barring they take major steps forward, I don't think those guys should be captaining the offense moving forward. So that's why it's important to let Steve Sarkisian get his own players in there because obviously there is a big disconnect between this group of players and this coaching staff. Let's see what changes get made during the offseason, but if you want to get rid of them, you're part of the problem. You really are because this thing, you cannot sit here in year one and measure this thing by wins and losses and say, oh, yes, it's a disappointing season. But what does firing a coach do? It gets you another recruiting class that is going to be subpar to the standards that you could have had. And also you got to find a new coach who's got to readjust. Let the guy have his second year. If they suck next year, if they're 4-8 next year, sure, yank it, pull the plug, fine. But at least give him a second year. At least give him a second year on the 40 acres and see what happens then. I think Steve Sarkisian's a good coach. I don't think he's done a great job this year, but I don't think it was going to go well anyway. This team's not good enough. They do not have good enough players. They absolutely don't. Their defense is not good enough to win 6 games in this conference because, Kansas is just, I know the effort's is a problem. They've had some injuries, whatever, but this is not a very good football team. It's not a very good football team altogether. Part of that's coaching, part of that's players not buying in. Let's see what happens when this group grows 1 year later on, and there's a lot of new players in there, all right? It might be a little bit learning curve, but I think he should have a chance. I really, really believe Sark deserves a chance there at Texas. I want it to work. Texas fans should want it to work. Also, it's a crowded coaching market. It's a really crowded coaching market. I know what Texas fans view their job as, but unless you're going for a Jeff Traylor, which I think is a good hire, and I bet Texas fans probably don't even like, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think just stick with Stark right now, see what happens, and move forward. And I don't think he can do overwhelming detrimental damage to the program in 2 years. So I would just let this thing ride out. I know it's going to be a bad year this year, but let him stick with it and see what happens the following season. All right, last game to get to here. TCU 31, Kansas 28. This game was a lot of fun. Kansas covers the spread, so we should be happy about that on that front. Celebration for Kansas for another close game. TCU wins it late. They're still in the hunt for bowl eligibility. I just thought this was fun. I just thought this was a fun game where both teams got some nice licks in on each other in terms of scoring. We saw some nice offense. Kendre Miller, had an awesome game, over 100 yards. In this one, Max Duggan came back, was not too impressive, but it was running the football that won this game. Duggan, Darius Davis, Amari DiMercato, and Kendre Miller all found the end zone. They rushed for 6.7 yards per carry, TCU did, and 4 scores. A nice day for Jalen Daniels, who goes 22 for 30, 255, 2 scores of interception. Devin Neal found the end zone as well. Kwame Lassiter gets over 100 yards in this game. It required in the end, and this was close the entire way. Like, this game was, it was tied at 7-7. It was tied at 14 all. TCU went up 28-14. KU was able to respond very quickly in that fourth quarter, and then they were able to tie it up. They had back-to-back touchdown drives, 5 plays, 74, and then they went 8 plays for 65 following that. 2 drives, a total of basically a little bit over 5 minutes, and then a 14-play, 67-yard scoring drive in the very end of the game. Won it for TCU. They hit a field goal on senior day. Gary Patterson was there. They've got a chance to go to a bowl game. There's still something left in this season for the TCU Horned Frogs. They play Iowa State on the road this week. It's going to be a difficult game. I think Iowa State's going to win that one. But I would still say this, for the fact that they're going to have a chance to go to a bowl game after everything that's happened this year is a welcome surprise, I think, for TCU fans as they wrap things up. And then, look, Kansas, man, you've covered back-to-back weeks. You won a game last week. There is no doubt. There is absolutely no doubt that the Kansas Jayhawks are an improving football team. They're going to get another opportunity this coming week against a bad West Virginia team. Well, bad. I think they're bad. A pretty average West Virginia team. They're going to get a crack at them this week. So Kansas' season, still a whole lot to play for them. 3 wins this year. I mean, they're going to win 2 of their last 3, potentially, right? They put up a great effort in this one. Just came really, it was a near fall, as they say in wrestling, on the road to potentially get this win. So good stuff from Kansas, and TCU, kind of pat in the back for them as well. Also, from our friends in the American Conference, Cincinnati just curb stomps SMU 48-14. It feels like Sonny Dykes has that one foot out the door. I wouldn't be surprised if kind of the official announcement comes down and this week. I think they still got a chance potentially to go to the AAC. No, they don't. I think that chance is now gone. They're 8-3, 4-3 the American. And Cincinnati, they had to come out there and they needed to put a thump on somebody like an SMU, and they did. Desmond Ritter was 274 for 3 scores in the air on 17 of 23 attempts. So he had a very good day. Jerome Ford found the end zone on the ground, as did Desmond Ritter. They got Trey Tucker over 100 yards. They nearly got Tyler Scott to 100 yards as well. So a good result there for the Cincinnati Bearcats. And it looks like an 8-3 SMU. Now that run might be over, and Sonny Dykes' run at SMU is most likely coming to an end. Dana Holgerson's Houston Cougars are 10-1, 31-13 win over the Memphis Tigers. They are 8-0 in American Conference play. They're going to win 11 games. They've got UConn this weekend, so they're going to win their 11th game most likely. Good for them. I mean, that's a big what if they don't lose that Texas Tech game, right? The game they were up 3 scores, and it's a big what if that we've got. Also this week, UCF gets their 7th win, 49-17 against UConn. So an easy win right there. And also the last team that we always have to talk about is the BYU Cougars, a 34-17 win at Georgia Southern in this game. Tyler Algier carries for 136 in the score. Jaron Hall throws for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. BYU gets 9-2, and now they've got a chance to win their 10th game of the season. So there's a good chance, y'all, that there are 3 teams joining the Big 12 Conference this year that are going to win 10 games. BYU plays at USC. It's not a very good USC team they're playing this week. BYU could be 10-2. Houston could be 11-1. Cincinnati could, is looking at 12-0 right now. Tough game against ECU has been pretty decent this year, but Cincinnati is staring 13-0. BYU 10-2, and Houston 11-1 right in the face. And also, you add in UCF. Normally, they're actually kind of the best out of that group in at least the last couple of years. UCF 7-4, so they've got a chance to win their 8th game of the year and the 8-win football team as well. Those are the 4 teams that are coming to the Big 12 Conference next year. So, that's exciting. If you're a Big 12 fan, it's very exciting to see those teams succeeding. I know the conferences are not as good, but those teams are having a lot of success as they kind of look forward to the transition, which is coming here in the next couple years. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You can follow me at JoshNeighbors_. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.